Hey everyone, this is David Snyder from Lit Protocol, and I am absolutely delighted to be joined today with Shannon Code from Emblem Vault and Agent Hustle. Shannon, thanks for making the time.
Hey, thanks for having me today, David.
Yeah, to get started, for those who are not familiar with your work, do you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your history in crypto and what your focus is as of now with Emblem Vault and Agent Hustle?
For sure. Yeah, so I've been in crypto for quite a few years, actually. And I had an interesting backstory. So I got recruited out of a hackathon, not a hackathon, but like a capture the flag at a security conference, a local security conference, and a local firm was doing security research, and it was my first security job, and it's kind of like the dream job. If you are in the security field, you usually start out as a grunt worker and work your way up to a research position. But I got hired to do a research position right out of this conference, and I really loved it. It was one of the most fun years I have had. But the company ended up being sold, and I had just learned about it's funny, some meme coin in the newspaper, and I was like, okay, I need to pay attention to crypto, and I really want a new security job. I wonder if I can find a security role in the blockchain space. So after a couple days of researching, I found this company called Mastercoin, and they were hiring somebody to handle their crowdsourced security program. So that's how I got started in blockchain. I applied, and they were like, "Oh, you're great," and we started like a crowdsource bug bounty program for them. And
For
about
those not familiar, they may not be aware like what era Mastercoin is in. Maybe you can add a little color there.
Yeah, so Mastercoin was one of the first meta protocols. It actually Vitalik, the founder of Ethereum, came out of Mastercoin. He left about 2 weeks before I started, so I didn't actually get a chance to work with him there. But Mastercoin, which has now been renamed to Omni, they had a number of firsts, but it was around 2012 at this point, and they had realized that smart contracts on a blockchain, and at this point, Bitcoin was like the blockchain. There were a number of other projects, but they were essentially forks of the Bitcoin software. So the founder of Omnicoin said, "Well, I think that I can create smart contract-like capabilities on Bitcoin by creating a meta protocol." And they did. They came up with a number of different ways to encode special transactions on Bitcoin that would allow minting new tokens or creating different types of financial instruments. And yeah, so it was quite a while ago. They also did the first, they did like they do. In order to get the Omni token, you had to burn Bitcoin. So they had sort of pioneered proof of burn as a token distribution mechanism. And yeah, it was a really, really fun time in crypto. The main thing that people did with crypto at that time was give it away. I
Right.
mean, it was, I was being paid in Bitcoin, and I think Bitcoin was around $200 a piece at that time.
Yeah, I first got interested in 2013, bought some first Bitcoin then, and it's been it's been quite the decade. So here we are, 12, 13 years later. What are your current focuses right now?
So, while I was there at Mastercoin, and I watched Ethereum get released, and we were in this ecosystem that reminded me a lot of the internet I'd heard about before the internet we have today. This distributed, where we've got like universities that have their own intranets. You've got ARPANET. You've got different ways to communicate and view websites on this network versus that network. And that's what the blockchain ecosystem felt like to me at the time. And I really didn't like that. And I saw that, I saw a future of a more flat landscape, and set out to build just that. Like, I wanted one blockchain ecosystem where it didn't matter which token I had, it didn't matter, which country I was at, it didn't matter which blockchain I was connected to. It would just sort of work a lot like the credit card system or the banking system that we're all familiar with. And I set out pretty early, I had this idea to build a universal type of wallet where somebody could. Let me back up a little bit. I discovered HD wallets, so hierarchical deterministic, where you can take one seed and you can derive a whole bunch of different wallet addresses and wallet types from it. And I realized that, I could sort of use this mechanism to have this one wallet that could accept multiple different types of tokens, and sort of played with that concept for a few years until creating Emblem Vault. And what Emblem Vault did was I took that HD concept and combined it with this idea of creating minting NFTs on Ethereum mainnet. And then I attached the two. So anybody could come and they could create this NFT that would have embedded inside of it all of these different deposit addresses. So the thesis at the time was you create this NFT, you fill it up with Bitcoin, you add some Litecoin to it, and then you sell it to somebody. Since the NFT lives on Ethereum, you sell it to somebody or transfer it to somebody else on the Ethereum blockchain, and you've now done cross-chain swaps. So I've transferred Bitcoin and Litecoin to another user on Ethereum, and then they can crack open that vault and claim the tokens out. And that was sort of, that was my big idea. And I worked on that for quite a few years. And that is even today what Emblem Vault's main focus is.
I can brag a little bit on your behalf. Like today stands as the world's largest NFT bridge and vault-based bridge, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we really enjoy that product, and we found some early like product market fit, and it's still used today to transact sort of obscure or cross-chain NFTs between different users. So, but then fast forward to about a year and a half ago, I had a friend that mentioned or that was showing me the Chat GPT, but ultimately what he was doing with the you know writing AI based stuff using the Chat GPT APIs, and I was completely infatuated. I mean, I was like, this is amazing. And so I started on the side really trying to get my 10,000 hours in to understanding everything about generative AI. And that evolved into the company, the Emblem Vault company, creating like an on-chain AI agent that has access to a whole lot of different tools. So tools on Solana, tools on Ethereum mainnet. So tools on all of these blockchains, but it's just like a natural language interface. You can sort of talk to this agent and he can go out and do different things on your behalf, do different research. But behind the scenes, he also has one of these vaults, which has, multiple deposit addresses. And now, thanks to working with Lit Protocol, we've been able to automate a lot of the wallet operations. So the agent actually has the ability to do anything that a user would do with their wallet, but it's sort of automated and programmatic within the agent.
Yeah, I mean, and this is Agent Hustle that we're talking about, and I think it's just like, as a user of Agent Hustle myself, it just seems so obvious that as LLMs and AIs continue to improve, that if you're somebody who you've got some savings, but maybe you're not a finance person, maybe 3-4 years ago, you would ask your uncle or your friend, you'd be like, hey, what do you think are like really good investments? Or how can I generate more returns on my cash and on my capital? And now you have all of the wisdom of the entire internet in the context of an LLM that is essentially your pocket quant, not just giving you advice on the trading strategy, but also executing it
Mhm.
while you're asleep. It's absolutely pioneering product. For folks that want to check it out, that's I believe the domain is agenthustle.ai.
Yes, it's agenthustle.ai. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep, and it's live and doesn't it's live now. It doesn't cost any money. Like, no deposits are required, and you can create an account by signing in with any blockchain wallet or like social media logins like Google, like Gmail or X. Yeah, it's pretty easy and pretty easy to get started and just kind of start asking questions about, what data it has access to. And yeah, he's really good at discovering assets and, providing feedback based on the real-time data he's got access to. So
I love the name too of Hustle. It's like he's your automated pocket trencher, basically. That's what the agent is up to. Um, yeah, it's amazing. And I remember coming across Emblem Vault in 2016 and 2017 and just being so impressed with this kind of omni-chain vision. And the world has definitely caught up to that, which has been like awesome for crypto in general. Well, amazing. Yeah, it's been an absolute delight so far, and I know we're only at the beginning, but would love to get into some details around how you're using Lit and starting with how do you first come across Lit protocol and the work that we've been up to
this
around decentralized programmable keys?
is actually a fun story. So from the early days of Emblem Vault, I realized that I wanted or needed really to make it as decentralized and blockchain-like as possible. And back when we first started, we worked with Google. Google had a TEE product. It was bundled with their like distributed key rotation system, and it worked okay, but it didn't do all the things that I wanted, and it was very centralized. It was definitely not the distributed or decentralized system that we had hoped for. So over the years, I had often just taken a day or two and said, okay, well, I'm going to research what is available now, look at the current technology, see about if we can roll our own or what other products are available. And it took it took quite a few years for the technology to sort of land where I wanted it to. And how I discovered Lit was I had finally said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to roll my own multi-party computation system, decentralized or distributed key generation system. And I had a really long conversation with ChatGPT. I think it was GPT-4 at the time. And I'd actually started rolling a prototype and I had a couple of different, key creators, and they were, creating their shares and combining them in a way. And I was like, okay, cool. This is going to take a little bit of work, but I can build this. But then like I do with a lot of my GPT or AI conversations, at the end, I said, okay, well, now given all of this, do some deep research and find out if there are any products exist on the market that are doing this sort of work that I might not know about. And ChatGPT suggested Lit Protocol, and I started reading about it, and I was like, okay, this is exactly what I've been looking for.
Amazing.
Exactly. And not just exactly what I was looking for, the models overlapped so well because like Lit is also like a wallet attached to an NFT, which is, therefore transferable. And I was like, okay, well, I have to reach out to these guys. And yeah, we've been working together ever since.
That's so amazing. I remember in the very early days of starting Lit, we're like, wow, one day we would be so excited to meet and work with the Emblem Vault guys. And just that story, I feel like is you couldn't tell that story 10 years ago. Wouldn't make any sense, but today it's just kind of seems obvious. And so just to kind of get explicit about it, I know you gave a little background here, but maybe you could define the problems specifically that you were trying to solve when you started using Lit.
So the problem that we were trying to solve specifically is we did not want to be so much involved in the creation of keys and also directly involved in the users sort of extracting the value out of those keys. And at that
Right.
point, our system, we were it was pretty centralized. We were still heavily involved in creating, like the keys were actually created on one of our servers. It was a minimal server. It was a serverless, so the server would shut down and immediately forget that it had created the keys, and it would encrypt them and store them elsewhere. But I didn't like that, having that potential attack surface there. We were still creating the keys, and one line of code, console.log, the keys, and then the log files are leaking all of the keys that they generated. And I really wanted to get away from that model. And so that was really the biggest initial goal. The secondary goal, which in our previous versions, I couldn't even come close to doing and remaining like decentralized, was this ability to programmatically let users interact with those assets in that key set that we have generated. I had always envisioned like somebody creating an Emblem vault, putting different assets inside of it, and then having the ability to swap those assets within that vault, or maybe make a purchase using one of the asset types inside that vault without having to destroy the vault and take all of the assets out and exposing all of the keys to the user. And those things were just not possible with the system we had. But that specifically, explicitly, the product that Lit had built was not only the key generation, but also this ability to automate a lot of operations inside this trusted execution environment. And I immediately was able to see, like, okay, cool. So we can automate just about anything. With a little bit of JavaScript code, I could automate a swap between two blockchains in one of these key pairs. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is it. This is the future. This is exactly what I'm going to build using. And yeah. Did that answer your question?
Amazing.
I tend to
Yeah.
talk a lot and get lost in the questions. So
No, that's great. And I mean, I think you covered it, but like now that you're we've got this amazing partnership between the Lit network and the product that you're building with Emblem Vault, and essentially enabling anybody to think about any asset on any chain as its own kind of programmable construct that can in turn move across any chain, right? Which is in
Mhm.
some way the notions of the vault. Um, Recently after kind of onboarding into the system, how has it changed, if any, how has it changed around how you kind of like build or operate looking ahead?
Hmm. So bef- before we had to, like, transferability was really important because we didn't have programmatic access to working with these keys. So the users, if they wanted to do an action, they would have to mint this NFT and transfer it to another user. We, with our current, with our with Agent Hustle, the AI product, those vaults are not actually minted. Those accounts are not transferable, um, because they don't need to be. Like with the Lit system, we can automate or build in these automations to allow the agent and or the user to perform these sort of actions on chain without without having to mint and or later destroy or transfer a minted asset to another user. So that's really changed a lot. Let's see.
No, that makes sense. Um, yeah, it's a different set of lenses once you start like looking at the world through, oh, I can program accounts on any arbitrary system. Obviously, like blockchains being the main one that we're all focused on. Um, yeah, I think at least to me, it kind of signals at even us being super early in the disruption cycle around finding whole new ways to interact with software where agents and artificial intelligences are embedded inside of software, but the agent is logging into a piece of software,
Mhm.
which is kind of what is being demonstrated in a way with the notion of a vault. Obviously, in crypto, it's different than Web 2.
Yeah.
Cool. So when you're talking to like a smart friend who may not necessarily be in crypto and maybe you haven't seen them in a while and you're catching up and you're telling them about Emblem Vault and Agent Hustle, and they go, yeah, but how does it work? And it gets to the point in the conversation where you have to explain what lit protocol is to this friend. What do you say?
Well, I say that we've got, see, how would I say that? The, just the trust level has been abstracted. So as a software development company building a software product, we can write a whole lot of software and but then we can sort of extract the pieces of information that we don't want access to. We don't want our users to have direct access to. And so how we interface with lit protocol, which is largely like a like a virtual machine that runs inside of this trusted execution environment that is distributed across a number of different participants. Those are so the encryption or decryption or signing, it happens inside this secure enclave, and I describe it very similarly to um, the first secure enclave I ever worked with, which was the iPhone. When the iPhone first came out, or when the iPhone came out, they had one of the versions would let you use your thumbprint. And there was a big security concern about people storing their thumbprints on this device. And, how that ultimately worked was your biometric data was stored deep inside of a chip inside the iPhone that even if you took the iPhone apart, you don't have access to. None of the software outside has direct access to information inside this secure area. And, that's how I explain what a
That's
lit TEE is it's a, there are ways to get data into the secure area. There are, you know, defined ways to get data out, but ultimately we can't see what's going on inside. We can't, and by not being able to see, we also can't manipulate. So if we get a signature out of the lit TEE, out of a lit action essentially, we know that a rogue employee or somebody at some third-party hosting provider, they weren't at some console somewhere and saying, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this address to my address, or I'm going to spy on the key and just start recording people's private keys while that was going on.
one of the ways that I've been talking about it. And, like you always lose something when you describe something by analogy is like, imagine if your password manager was decentralized and in the cloud and could run apps to kind of like get that mental model around, oh, it's this secure place that nobody can get into, but it's also a computer.
Right.
Amazing. Uh, so as we kind of like look ahead to call it the next 12 to 18 months, the future of Web3 AI agents. Obviously, you're on the cutting edge of that with Agent Hustle. Um, how do you continue to see this world unfolding and your work with Lit fitting into that vision?
Well, like you'd mentioned earlier, we're in an exciting space right now because are working with some sort of smart wallet, smart account. Um, so this is here. The entire industry has caught up with us, and that's exciting. Um, which means that when we build really fun, crazy things that are similar in concept to a smart contract, but we've been internally calling them like meta smart contracts because they can do smart contract like things, but they can do them with APIs and they can do them between different blockchains. Um, yeah, yeah, I got lost, so you might want to
No, I mean it's good. I mean, I think just like if we see another order of magnitude improvement in LLMs, I mean, I suppose that then that just like makes Hustle smarter. Hustle has more capabilities. Like, yeah, I could imagine, yeah, just kind of like guessing at what your roadmap looks like for Hustle.
So, like, back up a little bit and talk a little bit
Sure.
more about sort of how I envision the future of working with the lit protocol. Um, Early on when we were building Emblem Vault, it was really fun to speculate about what different types of things we could transfer. If we could transfer um, blockchain assets from one person to another, could we also do that with a password? Could somebody encrypt a password and transfer it to another person? Or could I store API keys and multiple passwords in there and transfer or transmit it to multiple people? And we know we've had many dozens of these weird ideas over the years. But then we sort of get lost in the weeds building the actual product. But I'm now finding it really exciting to start thinking about different ways to utilize um, stored secrets,
Right.
transferable, tradable. Like you'd mentioned a password manager. I always thought it would be really great to build a password manager where I put all the passwords inside of this bundle, this package. I give it to my new hire, and then I can sort of see which passwords they use if that new hire leaves. So I don't have to rotate 600 different passwords and API keys because I can actually see that user, oh, they only actually looked at 12 API keys. They used 2 passwords. Okay, cool. So I know exactly which passwords were exposed and which keys to rotate. So I think building for the next year, I'm going to really enjoy coming up with these really clever things that we just couldn't do a decade ago, couldn't really do easily 5 years ago. Um, but now we really can. Like, yeah.
I just want to double click on that. Like what you're articulating here, and I'm totally in agreement, is like an altogether different way that software gets used. Like blockchains and dApps start to lean in this direction, but like there's no way right now, if you want to have a computer interact with Facebook, for example, or Google or any, website through an API, you have to go through their walled garden, right? They say, you're a third-party app connecting, let's take Facebook for example. You're a third-party app connecting to Facebook. Here is the limited set of data and actions that we will give you about the user. That's like the gate to the walled garden.
Mm-hmm.
But with what we're talking about here, in a world where the software itself is logging in as the user and Facebook isn't aware, is this an agent or is this the flesh and blood human being? That is just like such a fundamentally different way to use software than what we do today. And, in my view, so much more beneficial for the user. It's kind of like the way to knock down the fences of the walled garden in many ways.
Exactly. Yep. We are going to get the internet experience that we deserve now because we can build it.
LFT. That's awesome. Amazing. Well, this is super fun. How can people find out more about Emblem Vault and Agent Hustle and follow your work in general?
So the easiest, we have like emblem.pro is our main landing page that sort of collects all of our different projects and describes them and links out to them. I'm also quite active on X. My Shannon Null Code is my handle on there. You can find me on there as well. That's, yeah.
Yeah, and I also want to mention the Hustle token is out there and liquid. I'm a holder.
Well, I appreciate that. That's
Yeah. So yeah, you can find that there as well. Okay, this is great. Anything else you want to add, Shannon?
no, just really appreciate the product. Appreciate how it is continuing to improve and faster than I can implement the stuff. You guys released like enhancements and updates faster than it can implement it. So that means that like by the time like I feel completely comfortable saying that yes, we can release products that can interact with every blockchain, every type of private key that exists now or will exist in the future.
Amazing. Well, thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot, David.
Can't wait to talk again soon.
Awesome.